My name is Carl Blythe. I'm the Director of COERLL, the Center for Open Educational Resources and Language Learning here at the University of Texas at Austin. And we have, this is our third OER Hangout, what we're calling a Hangout, which is just a small discussion online. And we have three speakers today who are going to be leading us in a discussion about professional learning networks or teacher communities. So let me give a really super brief introduction. The idea here is that the speakers will tell you a little bit about their learning network one by one, and then we will have most of the time dedicated to a Q&A, a back and forth. As you listen to your speakers, please go ahead and type your questions or comments as they come to you in the chat box below. We have Sarah and Natalie will be monitoring that, and we will make sure that we answer your queries or we respond to your comments in some fashion. So we have three speakers today. Una Daly is the director of the Community College Consortium for Open Educational Resources. Oscar Joya is the moderator for COERLL's own Heritage Spanish community. He's a Spanish teacher at Mesquite ISD and a master's student at Texas A&M Commerce. And our third speaker, Meredith White, is the moderator of langchat, a well-known community on Twitter. She's a Spanish teacher and also a methods instructor and currently a PhD student. I didn't know that, Meredith. That's great. Okay, so as I said, we'll give each speaker about 5 to 7 minutes to talk a little bit about their network. So Una, you are up first, please.
Thank you, Carl. I'm thrilled to be here and work with the COERLL community in more widely. So the Community College Consortium for OER was actually founded about 12 years ago. So it was founded in at a college district in Northern California. And just a brief note about the visionary behind this. Dr. Martha Cantor was our chancellor at the time at the Foothill De Anza Community College District. She went on to become the Undersecretary of Education in the first Obama administration, is now the executive director of College Promise, which is the organization focused on providing free tuition for the first year of college for graduating high school students. So she really saw open education, OER, as a way to not only expand access and widen those doors for students who are coming into our system, but also to encourage faculty innovation and allow faculty to bring in additional instructional materials into the classroom that either they created or were openly licensed, or back in 2007, we talked a lot about public domain because there really wasn't that much OER. So, you know, even though that started 10 or 12 years ago, and that was a little bit before my time actually, the mission, the core mission hasn't really changed all that dramatically. We've expanded a little bit. And so our mission is, you know, remains strongly around creating or promoting awareness and adoption of open educational resources to enhance teaching, expand access for students, particularly with looking at students, low-income students and the non-traditional students, and how OER can help them with that. What has changed, of course, is that we now have over 90 members in 34 states. About a quarter of those, 20 to 25% of those, are statewide memberships. So although our focus has long been helping faculty to find those materials, create those materials in order to help their students, we now, with the statewide memberships and the growth of OER in general, we're looking more at working with state and regional leaders of open education and how we can help at that level. So that's a new initiative that we just kicked off this second half of this year. And so kind of stay tuned for more information on that as it evolves. So, and somebody give me a hands up when I get over my time here, because I could go on forever. Not that I want to, but so we kind of look at our the ecosystem around OER, particularly, you know, kind of from our view. And I could either start from the outside in or the inside out, but I think it's simpler sometimes to look at the inside out. So we've got the staff of CCCOER, which is myself and my support specialist, Liz Yada, who are the only actual staff for CCCOER, but we're part of a larger organization called the Open Ed Consortium. And the Open Education Consortium, which we've been part of that nonprofit for 8 years now. It has members in 40 countries around the world, and it's a global organization trying to promote and support the impact of open education around the world. And then we have, within CCCOER, we have an executive council, which has grown to be about 15 people this year with certain subcommittees. These are all folks who are engaged at their colleges in OER efforts, but they come together to help with the planning of our activities and our collaborations within our community of practice. And then we have our members, which is the next layer in that, you know, if you're looking at these concentric circles that are growing, and so that's that members across North America, which actually includes Canada, because we work closely with a number of Canadian provinces as well. And then out from there, we're looking at the community of open education, which is worldwide and quite a bit larger than just our members. So I think about how many minutes am I in now?
You can have a couple more minutes.
A couple more minutes, good.
Yeah.
So Sarah had asked us to talk about communications and how do we communicate? And I'm not sure. So this once again comes back to community and technology a little bit, is that we have a listserv that has over 1,500 people. And I hope Sarah's on that one. And those aren't just our members. So those are folks from all, I wouldn't say all continents. We have several from Europe, we have certainly North America, and they're four-year colleges and universities who participate with us in an ongoing discussion. We also share all of our online activities that are for the general community on that list. We do monthly webinars with thought leaders from open education, and certainly not limited to our community, but our community has amazing folks that are sharing stuff as well. We also, of course, have Twitter. We do in-person events as well. And for our own members, we have special, events and quarterly things that encourage collaboration within our own community. What I also wanted to mention is that we have guest blogs that we invite folks to share the initiatives that are going on around, and in particular, we've had one for almost the last 2 years on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what that means for OER. And so our most recent one is about the LGBT community and how open education and education in general intersects with that. And actually, this one is really just a collection of links and some reflections on the work that's being done by New America Foundation on this issue. So we welcome guest blogs from anyone who would like to participate on that particular topic. And you can see that, without going into too much more detail, that we have a lot of all of our webinars are archived, and we welcome anyone to listen to those and enjoy those. We have a lot of case studies. So over the last about 3.5, 4 years, we have focused on working with colleges and organizations on OER and zero textbook cost degree pathways. So we were fortunate to work with Achieving the Dream on their initiative, which has just completed, worked with 38 colleges in 13 states. We're currently working with the California Community College System on their zero textbook cost degree pathway. So slightly different methodology, all trying to achieve very similar results to help students and reduce equity gaps. So sorry, that was quite a bit, but
No, that's really great. Okay, so thank you so much, Una. And again, Una is representing CCCOER, and those three C stand for Community College Consortium. And it turns out that the community colleges are a hotbed of innovation, particularly in terms of OER. They have often been on the cutting edge of a lot of developments in open education. So it's great that we have Una here representing that particular community. She mentioned a word that was really important, how to participate. We'll be probably getting in more into those details because all these communities have different activities that you can join and become a part of. So now let's move on to Oscar Joya. And as I mentioned, Oscar is one of our moderators for the COERLL's Heritage Spanish Community, which was a project that we started several years ago. So Oscar, would you tell us a little bit about your community and your work as the moderator for the Spanish Heritage Project?
All right, thank you very much, Carl. Well, as you said before, as you were well presented, I am the community moderator for our COERLL Heritage Spanish section. So we are part of the big group called the COERLL at UT Austin, where they have focus on different languages. And in our case, we're working on the Heritage Spanish community. So despite the big number of heritage speakers that we have in Texas, there's not like resources, like real authentic resources to teach these kind of populations. So one of the goals that we have in our COERLL Spanish Heritage Spanish community is to create a network of teachers willing to provide support to each other in this area of teaching heritage speakers. So there's not too many materials that are good enough. So we have a great group of professionals who work with us, who share their materials, who share their things. They work every day with their students. And we trying to make this network grow and try to also put direction towards secondary education. Most of the materials that we have are college level, and most of the collaborators we have are also in college, in different colleges and universities of the state. So the idea of having, for example, this community is to move it also to invite people from secondary education to be part of our community, not only as people who can use the materials, but also people who can create and collaborate with everybody else here in our community. So I'm just gonna share the page a little bit so you can take a look at it. Let me see, can you see it now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So here, this is our homepage. It's the design of the page, the Heritage Spanish Community. We have different sections here to that people can always look at it and get information about. So it's like a general presentation here. We have also the Texas Coalition for Heritage Spanish, which is one of the biggest goals that we have in our page, which is pretty much to create and promote the development of heritage, language, communities, materials, and activities across the state in order to create some kind of foundation to teach our populations once again. Also, we have the message board, also where our participants, we have a good number of teachers, and I cannot tell you right now an exact number, but we have all the time people join us, sharing information with us, questions, sharing materials. It's a very good community here that we have. In the message board, they can post questions, they can share information, materials, different things. For example, today we have an activity from proposed by Chris Cashman, which is about inviting people to share, just to share what they're doing today, you know, in order to promote the sense of community, the sense of sharing materials and making people realize that it's not something like too complicated to do. It's something little simple stuff that can help us like make strong and develop the sense of community and participation here, collaboration, everybody. Also, we have one section where we invite people to share their materials, and also anybody can access to these materials, use them, adapt them according to their needs in their own classrooms. We have also in our resources page, we have different, the events that are going on right now. Actually, I take advantage of this opportunity to invite everybody to our workshop on June the 25th and 26th, 2020. We have one every year where also we have people from all the state and parts of from outside Texas to come, to present, to share ideas, they always leave with some ideas, to work in their classes, to work in their programs, and, you know, once again, aim to develop the teaching of heritage languages, not only in the state of Texas, but outside. We have different textbooks also created by our teachers. Actually, we have one from our Meredith here also in this part of sections. We have different articles provided by researchers, different kind of assessments that we have available for the communities. And also we make connection with other groups like similar to ours across the United States, and different information that people can use, the teachers and members in our community can use in order to develop their practices in heritage speakers. Also, we have, as we said, the events before. It's a very welcoming page where people can always find some kind of help, not only as a material, as a book, but also as a simple questions. Sometimes they don't know what to do with certain programs, certain topics. There's always people willing to help, to participate, and to provide information to everybody here. So we invite you guys, if you're not here, part of our community, to join us and check by yourself what I'm telling you now.
Okay, Oscar, thank you so much for that. Again, that's our COERLL's own teacher community focused on heritage Spanish. That started a number of years ago, and we're now in the second kind of iteration, second version of it. And it's really starting to take off. He mentioned a key word, and that is collaboration. They're a very collaborative group. They help each other out in all kinds of ways. So even if you don't teach heritage Spanish, if you're a Spanish teacher at large, you can still join this group and find a lot of information that might be helpful. Okay, and that brings us to Meredith, our third speaker. Meredith, are you ready?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Okay, and Meredith, remember, is going to be talking about langchat. So take it away, Meredith. Yeah, we can hear you fine. Go ahead, Meredith.
Cool. Okay, it's okay. My computer's lagging, and I also keep getting, like Oscar said, like school life, I keep getting interrupted by our custodians who are like, why is your door, what's going on here? And I'm like, no, stop. And my lights are motion sensor, so this will be an adventure when they go off. Like Carl said, my name is Meredith White. I teach just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I teach in Gwinnett County, which is a super huge district, 195,000 students, 141 schools, 20,000 employees. So I say that to say, I work in a really, everybody does. And I'm in Metro Atlanta where 8 million people are pretty much going in 3 different directions every day. So if I want to share resources, I have people to do that with. I have a department of 14 and it's really pretty cool, but I haven't always been in environments like that. And I think, you know, a lot of us aren't. So I moderate langchat, which is a solution to one of those problems. If you ever have, want to find materials or kind of a lot of the things that Oscar was saying, it's, you know, sharing materials, sharing ideas, sharing files, and it's really neat. We share via Twitter, and some people find that a little bit scary. They're like, oh, never mind. But I encourage everybody, I'm going to show my desktop here. I encourage, let's see, can you see mine? Yay, okay. I encourage you to try it out before you knock it. Twitter really is a super cool place, and it keeps telling my internet. Yeah, so let's do it. Let's look at how. And I've got 2 websites pulled up. We've been langchatting for about 10 years, and I have been moderating for 3. And so when I say moderating, we meet, we do a tweet up, a meetup, twice a month. It used to be weekly, and it's now twice a month. And all that means is we are all just on Twitter at the same time. And so when it's the official meetup time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays, and I can paste, while we Q&A, I can paste like the upcoming dates so that you know which every other Thursday it is. And basically, we moderators have decided on a
Meredith, we can't hear you anymore. It was kind of cutting in and out. And then, are you still with us?
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I
Yes.
still there? Yeah, I'm in.
Yes.
Okay. 2019. What a time to be alive. Anyway, and so if you want to share on a specific topic, if you want to find materials, you can do all of that. And so what that looks like from the moderator standpoint is we predetermine a topic and then we break down 5 questions. For example, if it's going desk free, we are going to design 5 questions spread throughout the hour that people can respond to and follow up with questions and materials that make sense in that order. So when I think going desk free, I think, you know, okay, how'd you get permission? If you asked for permission at all, then, you know, what did you do? What kind of seating arrangement did you do? Is it flexible, or did you just go like no desks at all, just chairs? What are some activities that you tried? What's the management piece look like? Because I teach high school, so I'm always looking like, how am I managing 36 high schoolers doing one thing? And so that as a sample topic, we would push out 1 question every 10 minutes. Meaning 8 o'clock is like introductions. Hey, how are you? Where are you from? And then about 8:05, 8:10, we start question 1, question 2, question 3, and so on. So 5 questions, 1 hour, and people can open dialogue. I'm gonna do an example tweet, and I'm on school Wi-Fi, so we're gonna see what happens and hope that the internet police don't come over. So this is what it would look like. Anytime you want to tweet anything, like if I say, does anyone have any ideas for projects in the novice, in the novice levels? I teach Spanish. You can lurk and just kind of watch people's different ideas. I'll show you how to do that really quick. Or you can offer something up like this, and what ties it all together is the hashtag. So you always want hashtag langchat. And so you can tweet that out right now and you'll get a bunch of responses from people like, oh yeah, take my files. You know, like Oscar was saying, like a lot of sharing, a lot of open community. Or if it's like that night, so let's say I've pushed out question 1, it's 8 p.m. on a Thursday and I've pushed out question 1, you might say, I asked let's use the desk free example. I asked my principal to go deskless and she said, she gave me her blessing. So glad to be supported. Smiley face. What would connect that is if that's question 1, you would want to respond answer 1 and then code it again with the langchat. So it just kind of shows specifically which one you're responding to. So you can meet up in person, or you can just pump ideas out like that one I just said about projects in the novice levels. You don't always have to meet live, and you don't have to participate at all. You can observe what's happening on langchat and not have a Twitter profile at all. So you can use you can use Twitter as a search engine. I'm on school Wi-Fi, so I doubt this is going to work, but we can try who's tweeted about projects and put in hashtag langchat. I think it's going to, oh my gosh, do they know we're on this feels very dangerous. Do they know we're on Twitter at school? Oh, maybe that's why the pictures aren't showing up. Yeah, so they know, but nothing's coming through. So something would come up here, like all of these pictures would show, and it's people like Laura Sexton, Elizabeth Howell, both amazing, who are sharing pictures of whatever they're doing. I'm going to click latest and hope that this is working. Cool. This is something that somebody tweeted on November 10th that they specifically shared with like the langchat community and had the word projects in. So that's pretty cool. And then I can keep going down. Laura Sexton, who's amazing, has a blog post about it. Samara Spielberg, also incredible. So you've got a lot of ideas. It can be a little bit dangerous to dip the toe in the pool of Twitter and teacher Twitter and langchat because it's a lot of ideas. But even just sparingly using it as a search engine, lurking, not participating, there are ways to follow it and not feel like you're fully in ways like that make you feel kind of vulnerable or too accessible. We've got, this is a picture of this is a sample picture of what a post would look like. So on March 22nd, we said, oh, no scheduled langchat tonight, but the hashtag's always open, meaning you can always share. But we would have pictures and they would have the question typed and everything. So everything very clear, very straightforward. These are the moderators for this year. If you want to check out our Twitter handles, I can share this in the chat as well. This is where to find us. So if you have a question, we can always retweet something or put it out. Or if you're like, oh yeah, project-based learning. Oh, you got to talk to Laura Sexton. And so we can push you in the right direction. But we are a huge network. These have last year's year numbers on there, but it's still us. We're a huge network, and a lot of people who attend the state conferences, attend regional conferences, work with ACTFL, and do a variety of different things. Elementary, university, middle school, high school, all languages, comprehensible input, all the way to, you know, help, I have to use these things, my district mandates this, how can I, you know, whatever, to the person that also makes curriculum. And I would say 90% of what is shared is absolutely free and like just open educational resources. So it's pretty cool. It has saved my career a number of times just with materials and ideas and community. So it's pretty cool, and you should join us. Join the fun.
Great, thank you so much, Meredith. Okay, so now we're gonna have a little bit of time for Q&A, but before we do that, I'd like to ask everybody, the listeners in particular, to take just a moment and go to the chat room and type in the names of the other professional communities that you're already a member of. And just to get a feel for kind of how active people are and what kinds of communities you are a member of. Would you take a moment and just type that in? So Meredith, in addition to langchat, and langchat is a very active group, do you belong to any other professional organizations? So as everybody is still typing in, as you're typing in then your professional communities, and it's interesting because there are differences, right, in the different kinds of networks you belong to. So whether you're in ESL or whether you're in foreign languages, whether you're in higher ed or secondary and so forth, you start to see different patterns. So let me go ahead and start the Q&A off with a question I have. And that is, I guess, this question of Twitter. So I'll come back to Meredith. So people say all kinds of things about Twitter, and particularly like the negative things get a lot of press. People are talking a lot about trolling and flaming and all the kind of evils of the Twittersphere. Do you find any of that? Because if people are wondering, should I really get involved in Twitter? Is there a negative side to this, or are people pretty collaborative and cooperative?
I think, let's see if I can share my screen here. My experience has been oh, there's the school internet, it's gonna do it. People are really collaborative. Teachers are really collaborative, really cooperative. I will say one thing is I sort of ignore the rest of Twitter, because Twitter kind of follows like Facebook. If you're not friends with somebody on Facebook, or you don't follow a page or like a page, then it's not going to like come into your world. So Twitter's the same way. If you're not following it, you're pretty much not going to see it. You'll see what your friends retweet. So if people that you follow retweet stuff, and like, it's sort of like they share, it's almost like you're overhearing it, you know, like you overheard it, but okay, whatever, I'm going to ignore that. And you can kind of scroll past it, but you have a lot of freedom to follow who you want and whatever. One of the things that I use to combat that is and you can see the images are all broken now because the school Wi-Fi is catching on to us. But one of the sites that I use to combat that is TweetDeck. And TweetDeck is, you can use it without a Twitter account, I'm pretty sure. And, but if you have a Twitter account, you know, you sign in, and TweetDeck allows you to isolate in these columns what it is you want to follow. So I keep one column that's my notifications, one column that's just like an upcoming conference like ACTFL. So their hashtags this year is going to be ACTFL 19. And then the hashtag langchat, just to follow along with it generally. And that helps weed out any of the extras. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a long vertical feed, but just everything that you follow. But like, I don't follow, you know, politicians except for my local ones. And so they pop in, but I'm not seeing any kind of, you know, other dramatic or, you know, sort of publicized things that then I see on the news, because I don't follow those on my Twitter. Within the language community, the only thing I've seen negatively is difference of methodology sometimes, and difference of philosophy. But I think in general, the people who are sharing are open to positive talk or positive debate about what it is they're sharing. So like if they're sharing an idea or sharing a thought from a conference, and someone's like, well, you know, that's not, you know, whatever in these kind of like polarized communities that we sometimes see, like this method versus this method, or I believe in this. Sometimes you'll see some of that kind of rear its ugly head, but pretty rarely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for that. You know, I was just wondering, Twitter often gets a lot of bad press, but I think a lot of that has to do with kind of political discourse,
Yeah.
social discourse, so topics that are a little bit not related to a professional network. I also wanted to ask, this is for all three of you, for Una and Oscar as well. Research has shown that OER, like that teachers who are using OER are not necessarily interested in sharing their own OER. In other words, that's a kind of a later stage in development of kind of the open mindset. And what we found at COERLL is that oftentimes teachers are somewhat afraid of sending out their materials because it can be face threatening. People are afraid basically that colleagues will criticize them for it or find a mistake or whatever. So in other words, people are happy to use materials and find materials, but sometimes they don't feel you know, confident in sharing their materials. Have you come across this kind of reticence? This kind of
I can speak to that.
Mhm.
Yes, I would say people who are early in the open phase, you know, and once again, I'm speaking from a community college perspective, although lots of overlap these days with high school, as I think Meredith could probably speak to as well. And with our dual enrollment and it's growing, and particularly in Georgia, I know it's growing. So yeah, I think that early on phase and is where people are afraid of, they haven't been showing their stuff before. And also as you get into the college and university level, there's also a little bit of, you know, sometimes it's, well, maybe I could sell this in the future. And we do get that sometimes. So, and then, and so there's, so I would say it's not limited just to what you mentioned, Carl, although that one I think over time can be remedied. And so if you want me, and then I was just going to mention at the university level, publishing, of course, is something that's really important in terms of getting tenure and promotion. And in that case, you need to get your ideas out first. And so sharing then can be, so sometimes it's a little bit about rethinking that. So sometimes you can stage that a little bit. So the instructor develops their course or a textbook or some resource, and they go through a limited peer review within their department, and they teach it. And so prior to that, they don't have to go public with it and put an open license on it and share it widely. And so letting them go through a couple of stages where there's perhaps one or two, you know, trusted colleagues that work with them on that can be really helpful before they go, you know, they open the kimono. So I think there's ways to work on that particular issue that Carl brought up. But once again, there's, you know, this whole idea around open is pretty new if you look at the whole education space over the last, I don't know, 50, 100 years or something, that being open wasn't necessarily part of that. Yeah, so it's a little new.
So can I just follow that up by another comment? First of all, I love your expression, opening the kimono. I think I've never heard that, but that's a good one. I'm going to borrow that. You mentioned, Una, in your response, the idea of open licenses, which is another barrier to sharing because people are, well, they're not confident of their understanding of open licenses. So does your organization help people understand the ins and outs, the basics of open licenses and how they interact? Because that's another level of complexity.
So we offer at least one webinar a year on that, where we have experts come in around Creative Commons. There's kind of a couple of ways to look at this. Number one is we also answer questions on our email list, but So Creative Commons itself now is offering a certificate program, which might be advisable. It does cost, I mean, it does have, there is some sort of fee associated with it. I think it's $500, but don't quote me on that. It's kind of moved around a little bit depending on, which can be very helpful for people who really want to get into the nuts and bolts. But what we actually suggest to our colleges is that the library or the instructional design, and sometimes they're in the same department, but those folks can become experts on that. Librarians already know an awful lot about copyright and licensing. They're usually at the college, they're usually in charge of managing the subscriptions in the library. Sometimes they're also in charge of keeping track of software licenses. So those are the folks to really develop and have them work with faculty and have them train the faculty. So they're on the ground there together. So we really promote that idea.
Okay, that is a great, several people are writing in. I see what Elaine has written in, and Penny, that they have gotten their certification with Creative Commons. So that's great. And I also...
She's an instructional designer. Hi, Elaine.
There you go. And I also want to give a shout out to librarians. I can say that here at the University of Texas, the digital library, first of all, the library, we all thought 20 years ago, oh my God, digital is going to kill the libraries. Oh, not at all. It simply has changed things, and the library now is the center for all things digital, and librarians know the real nuts and bolts about Creative Commons licensing and repositories. And so I would just follow up what Una says is, if you're trying to figure out the wonderful world of OER and open education, one of your first places to stop in this kind of universe is your library. Talk to a librarian, because chances are they know a lot about it, and they can get you plugged in. Again, they can help you create a professional network right in your home institution. So that's often a good place to start. Yeah, and I see people are writing in with agreement. Yes, librarians rock. Okay, so we're open for any of your comments to our speakers about their particular their particular professional networks, or just questions in general.
I think we had, so Penny has been very active in the chat room, and she wrote in, I'm not sure if the first comment was from her, somebody wrote in that they're really happy to hear of the attention to non-traditional learners. That was during Una's presentation. I work with adult education, low literacy, adult basic education, adult secondary education teachers throughout the state to incorporate EdTech and OER for program development to help adult learners reach their educational goals. So that was just a comment. And then Penny wrote, can I find materials for low literacy adults? Materials need to be adult appropriate, not butterflies and bubblegum, to help them complete their basic education and or earn their high school equivalency and or certification workforce materials.
Okay, that's a good question. Does anybody want to, I mean, I could take a stab at that, but how about our speakers? Anybody have any ideas where to go look for adult literacy materials? And again, presumably this is then in English, so not in foreign languages. Well, as everybody's cogitating, I'll go ahead and say, I think the kind of to piggyback what I was already saying, I would take that question directly to a digital librarian, because I think that they would likely be able to point you to a repository where you might be able to find professional, high quality OER that might fit that bill, because you're looking for something pretty particular there. So, for example, Merlot is a repository that deals with a lot of materials in lots of different disciplines, not just, let's say, foreign languages or ESL, but all kinds of disciplines, humanities, social sciences, and so forth. And they also are focused on K through 20, K through 16. So they're likely you'll find things there. Another excellent resource for literacy materials would be the Open Textbook Library from the University of Minnesota. One of the great things about these repositories is that they often have editorial teams so that the OER are actually vetted, and they're vetted by other people in the field. So whether they're secondary school teachers or high school or university professors, somebody's giving you their opinion, and they're taking the time to write an actual report. So ask your librarian and check out digital repositories. And yeah, go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, I just went to OER Commons, and they have tagged them also by adult education level, but I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Does anybody else from the presenters want to answer where they can find materials for adult learners?
I was gonna say, Natalie, you're right on about looking at OER Commons and the fact that there isn't a lot of information in this area. There are people working on this area though, adult literacy. It hasn't been funded to the same extent as I would say gateway courses in college. So the first 2 years of college have been funded pretty nicely. I think of OpenStax and folks like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Penny, yeah, I do. Meredith said get on Twitter. I would suggest that too. You might also want to pop onto my email list, Penny, and I put some information in there in the chat about how to get onto our email list, or you can just contact me directly. But there are people working on this particular issue, and so, and also ESL and some other basic skills and things like that. So you can find other people to work with, but it's still not at the level it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for that. There was a question, so there was a lot of chatting going on about how to get comfortable with CC licenses in the chat room. And somebody wrote in, do you think, it was Penny, do you think there is a process or training where teachers can overcome those concerns? I think that was in regards to the CC licenses. We have a lot of, just to add on to that, we have a lot of problem with that too here at COERLL. The faculty that we work with are usually very uncomfortable with CC licenses at the beginning. And it's just a slow process. We can kind of have to repeat it over and over. And you have to just reveal everything about CC license in stages because it overwhelms them tremendously. But so, anybody else?
Well, so I want to simply say, I don't think it's CC licenses, just CC. I think it's the whole concept of copyright that teachers often have trouble with because they really have often overlooked copyright. So we violate copyright all the time and we don't really pay much attention to it. I think what open education is trying to do is draw people's attention really for the first time to the ins and outs of copyright. So what does it mean? And so I think it's just is a little bit of grinding of the gears, but I think it's a good thing. I think people are going to take some time now to get more accustomed to what are the rights that I have as an end user. And that is just kind of a developmental stage that people are going through. Not to say that CC licenses aren't a little complicated, but I don't want to be too pessimistic. I think that people are learning a lot about copyright and in the process kind of coming to understand that they themselves are creating content that is legitimate and important and deserves to carry a license. So it's a process. Yeah. I wanted to ask a question. We are coming a little bit up on the hour. I wanted to ask a question to our three speakers, maybe kind of more of at a personal level. What have you gotten out of your professional development? So personally, what have you gotten from your participation with this, with your particular social network or professional network?
Well, one of the things I can say about it is that people, especially in Texas, were in isolation. So when you have the opportunity to talk to other people at workshops or in the cafe of the community webpage, people have the same problems in all of their schools, but nobody gets connected. So they think they're the only ones with those issues. That's why sometimes they're not like that open to share what's going on in their classes, in their classrooms. But when they get into a community like ours, they realize, oh, it's not only me. It's this person here, this person in this other place. So that helps teachers realize that the issues they have, they are very common, and that's the way that people can help each other to solve these issues. So personally, I've seen that many teachers have grown in that matter. You know, that especially when they start like first teaching their heritage classes for the first time, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to approach certain topic, or they don't know how to deal with grammar, vocabulary, different things. And sometimes they keep that information, they keep that issue to themselves. But once they open to people in the community, they find that, okay, those things I need, also there's somebody else's need. And the community is about to help that, to provide that, to make people grow.
Yeah, I think what you said is so true. I see that people are saying, yes, Oscar, exclamation point. Yeah, there's a therapeutic component, I think, to joining any kind of these social networks that can be really important, particularly when you feel isolated in your own classroom. Meredith referenced her situation in a large school district where she has lots of support, but not everybody's in that situation, right? Not everybody's so lucky to have that kind of support.
Yeah, it makes me think when I was actually first, this is going to be like a confession, but Oscar is reminding me that when I first got onto langchat and first got connected with it was actually at a point in my career where I was interviewing to do other things. I had interviewed at like a check cashing place, like where you sit behind the bulletproof glass and like cash check, like, I don't know. They are like, I had given them my shirt size. Like I was almost on the schedule and I was like, what am I doing? And I went to Skolt. That year was like in Birmingham, I think, and met up with these people and got hooked up with langchat. And I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Twitter, no thanks. And then got super into it. And at that point, I was in a department that was so against sharing. They would actually send you files like, oh, Carl, yeah, you want the unit test? No problem. And they would change the file extension so that you couldn't open it. So they would send like .pdff. And so you're going like, okay, it's not opening. And that was the degree to which they did not want to share. They didn't want to be vulnerable in that way. They didn't want you to have access. They had so much investment bias that you'd hear behind closed doors. Well, it took me 4 hours to make that test. And it was such a shame because, you know, people are incredibly creative. Like Oscar said, like we bond over the same things. We have the same struggles. We have the same students that are still 12 weeks into school saying me llamo es. And it makes me just want to smack them. But like we laugh about the same things and we have the same gripes and we have the same celebrations. But some people just get in that sphere of I'm not sharing and you're not gonna get to me, and they armor up. And it's really hard to understand at this point. But yeah, I've been in so many different environments that I'm really fortunate now.
Right. So that's a great example of you needed that little bit of company to make that mind shift when you were surrounded by people who didn't have that mindset, didn't have a kind of sharing or collaborative mindset.
Surrounded by people, but incredibly lonely.
Yeah. So let me make Una answer the question too, because I'm interested in how did you get involved? I mean, what was your personal connection with the CCCOER? You know, how did you get involved in it, and what has it done for you professionally?
Oh, that's a big question. So, well, I was working at Foothill College, and my boss was managing the project. And I was doing different things for her at the time. I was working on electronic portfolios with students in a specific department. And I sort of slowly moved into this, and for the most part have never looked back. So, and so I think I've grown along with the movement over the last decade. It's been just about a decade, and it's exciting. Things have expanded and grown, and there's challenges ahead, but I think we're making headway, and I think we're helping students and giving faculty more academic freedom and choices. Academic freedom may not be quite the right word, but we're giving them choices around what they bring into the classroom and what they can develop and use. And I faculty are the ones that we rely on to know what works in their classroom for their students. And so OER gives that to them. And so,
yeah. You know what? I think we should probably end on that note. That was a very positive, upbeat note. I mean, you talked about it. It is an exciting time to be in open education. And I think a lot of us feel that we are contributing to the greater good. It is making us feel, I mean, this therapeutic component that we're talking about right now, as we can feel isolated in our silos, whether we're in a large university like University of Texas, which can be highly isolating because you're so hyper specialized, you don't connect with other people in a generalist kind of fashion, or in a small school somewhere. So there are a lot of different reasons. I guess the point of this is to talk about social networking. And let me end. We always have to do one thing. I want to mention just a couple of things here that you can participate right away by joining our, what we call our Learn community. And we give badges for your participation in open education, whether you have created OER or whether you used OER in your classroom. There are lots of different ways for you then to join this particular community that we're hosted right here on our COERLL website. And we also have a course we would like to promote. That's called the our OER course, where we talk to you a little bit more about how to find OER. We were earlier talking about repositories, different techniques, different methods, but just all the different kinds of facets that go with OER, and that's available on our website. So thank you so much to our three speakers. I really appreciate you giving up your time at the end of the day like this. Well, I guess in California, it's not the end of the day, but right here in Texas, it's quitting time. And let's all stay connected. Thank you, guys.